Hey, we want to welcome you to the first episode of Route 1042 Podcast, brought to you by Faith Baptist Church, and I am your host. I'm Ryan Steinke. Most of you already know me, but if you don't, I'm the youth pastor here at Faith Baptist Church, located in beautiful, yet very windy Danville, Indiana. And this podcast is for teenagers. We wanted to give them a resource because I believe that God has a special design and purpose for teenagers in this amazing time period in their life. So, for example, you have teenagers that start in youth group or high school, whatever it may be, 6th to 7th grade or middle school, and they're starting into this teenage realm of life. And it can be confusing. It can be just daunting. Lots of questions are filled in your mind during this time. What's happening to my body? What's going on in my mind? How do I make sense of life? What is my purpose? What can I do to have fulfillment in this life? Where do I fit in? Where do I belong? And on and on and on and on you go. You could easily think that this time period of your life it's hard, it's difficult, it's all about a struggle, it's all about questions, but I want you to know that you are in an amazing time of your life because you are experiencing growth and development at a rate that you will never have before in your life. At this point in your life, what you're experiencing, how fast you are growing, how much you are learning, all that you are developing in, it takes an explosion in your life. And it's absolutely amazing. And I want to help you. I really do. I want to help you navigate through this time in your life so that by the end of it, by the end of your teenage years, that you have a better understanding of who you are, about your purpose, and about your fulfillment in this life. And all of that is given to us by God. God does not have a design and a plan that he just holds off until you're 20 or until you're 22 or until your 30s. Then you'll know what your plan and purpose is. No, for every stage of life, God has something for you to understand and to know about why you are here. So this podcast, Route 1042, is to help you navigate in this time. So I hope that you subscribe. I hope you like and share and just enjoy listening to these podcasts. So this is episode 1. Episode 1, we're going to talk about what is a teenager. Like, what are you? You're this growing human being. You're not a child, right? We get that. You're not a kid. You're not in diapers. You're not sucking on a bottle. You're developing. You're growing. But you're not an adult, right? You're not at the stage of life where you're signing on home mortgages and you're thinking about car insurances and you're worried about this and grocery bills and budgeting and all these different things. You're not quite yet into adulthood, and you're coming out of childhood. So now you're in the middle of the hoods. Like, what are you? Like, where do you classify yourself? Are you a child? Are you an adult? Now, some teenagers, they act like a child a lot longer than some other teenagers, and some other teenagers, they start acting like adults a lot sooner. But that's what you are. You are in the middle of this. That's why you're called a teen. So that's where we get that word teenager. You're in between being a kid, a child, and an adult. But I want you to know we really have to properly define who you are or what you are just as a teenager. All right. So, for instance, just because you know what the hammer, if I held up a hammer, I said, this is hammer, you would say, oh yeah, that's a hammer. But if I didn't tell you more about what it's used for and why it's shaped the way it's shaped, you could take that hammer that you know it's a hammer and kind of just mess things up. You could really cause a lot of destruction by not knowing exactly how it's supposed to be used. Well, what about you? As a teen, where do you fit in? What defines you? What is your role here in society, in culture? So a lot of things, I want to say a lot of people define teenagers, okay? We have societies and we have cultures that can so easily define you. So the problem is if we have the wrong definition of a teenager, we're going to end up misappropriating where they belong and what they can do. Okay, so you could ask somebody who's very cynical about teens and about the younger generation. Oh, this younger generation, all they do is just they're on TikTok and they're on their cell phones and they're lazy and all. And we've probably heard people talk like that before. Okay, so his definition or that person's definition greatly reduces any sort of expectations that they're going to have of teenagers or what they're capable of doing. Okay, and then you have on the flip side, you have people who put way too high of expectations and standards, and all teenagers are failures. So there's this pendulum that swings from one side to the other, and I'm hoping that we can find exactly where you can place a definition and have an understanding of more about where you belong, okay? So there's a lot of people that are going to define who you are. They're going to define what a teenager is. But you have to understand, as a teenager, your definition is moving from childhood into adulthood. So here's a hard truth. Here's the hard pill to swallow. You are not an adult. You are not an adult. A lot of times you want to be treated like an adult. You want to act out like an adult. You want people to respect you as an adult, but you're not. Okay? You are in this time period. You are moving in that direction. That's the goal. You're moving into the direction of a respectable, of a contributing adult, someone who is making mature decisions that not only benefit you, but they benefit the people all around you. All right? So a couple of the things about defining a teenager is you are in between childhood and you are in between adulthood. It's letting go of being a kid and reaching out to being an adult, okay? So what about those expectations? Okay, we don't expect you to act like a child, and yet we can't expect you to act like a full-blown adult. So there is this middle ground that we as youth pastors or pastors and parents and teachers and coaches and mentors and all these things, we have to understand that, okay, you're moving out of childhood and you're going into adulthood. So I can't treat you just like a kid, and I can't treat you just like an adult. You're in between those. So how do we balance that with our expectations? Okay, we take a little bit from both sides. We understand that you're not going to know everything, such as a child. But yeah, we understand that you want responsibilities, and you want to have, you want to take on more responsibilities as an adult. We can't give you all the responsibilities because you're not an adult, and we can't take care of you in every area of life because you're not a kid. Like, you should be able to pour your own cereal. Okay, go get your own milk. You should be able to, make your own bed every day and pick up your own clothes, which that's still the struggle. I guess there's some things about being a kid that just never leave you, and that could be pretty hard sometimes. But you're moving away from being a kid, and you're reaching out into becoming an adult. So what about expectations? So here's something more for, I guess, the parents and leaders or teachers, whatever they may be, about what kind of expectations you should put on a teenager, okay? Every teenager is different. Now, collectively, we put them in these pools and say, as teenagers, this is your expectation. All right, so we do this perhaps with schools in different classes. A room full of teenagers in English class are going to have a certain expectation overall from the teacher. All right, and then that same group of people, they're going to have expectations from the coach, and then those groups of teenagers are going to have expectations from the parents. So we can't just lump all teenagers into one group and say, now everyone meets this expectation, or everyone has to meet this expectation. If you don't meet this expectation, then you're failing, okay? Not everybody's an A student, all right? My mom was so sweet. She homeschooled me from second grade all the way to ninth grade it was. And so when I went into the private school, private education for the first time, it was quite tough. And I remember feeling like a failure at physics and being a failure at chemistry and a failure even at English class. And my mom always said, Ryan, as long as you do your best, And I thought that was the greatest relief because I didn't have the expectations of I have to have a 4.0 or I'm a disappointment. Or I have to have the average of a 3.75 or I'm a disappointment. No, it was simply the expectation of doing your best. So we need to know as leaders and as teachers or parents, knowing where you are leading the teen is going to help you direct your expectations. So if a teacher has a student in English class who says, Mrs. Teacher, I want to go to law school, all right? Well, that teacher now is going to be directing that student to be accepted into law school. So the expectations are going to be a little different. If the coach has a young man who says, Coach, I want to be an NBA star, or I want to go into the NFL, or I want to go pro with this. Well, that coach is going to have a level different, a higher expectation on that teen than anyone else. So we have to understand that different teenagers and different groups of teens must have different expectations. And that's going to be really key for a lot of parents who are entering into parenting a teenager. Because as a parent, you look at other parents and their teens, and you assume that your teen ought to be behaving like that teen. So you take their expectation and you place it on your teen. I want you to know that's possibly damaging to your teen. Because you have to know who your teen is and where they are going. You need to be able to understand where they are, what their habits are, what's going on in their life, and how you can navigate where they need to be. For instance, if you have 3 teens in your home, let's say you have a smart teen, one who's, the education really comes easy. You have the athletic teen, and then you have the, a carefree teen, okay? Your expectations of each individual ought to be different for what they're going into. Someone who's going into higher education is going to be different than one going into athleticism or one who's going into the arts. Overall, you can have an expectation. And by the way, teenagers, overall, there is an expectation for you to do better, for you to increase, for you to grow and develop. But we as teachers and as parents or leaders, whatever it may be, we have to understand teenagers are different. And one way that we can help teenagers navigate through this time is understanding how to put the proper expectations on a teen. Okay, within a youth group here at the church, we have teenagers who are 13, and then we have teenagers who are 18. And they are vastly different. I cannot expect the 13-year-old to act like the 18-year-old. I shouldn't expect the 18-year-old to act like a 13-year-old. They're all different. Understanding who you are as a teen with the definition of a teen, and then understanding how that helps us with our expectations is going to help all of us. It's going to benefit you in navigating to where God wants you to be. So what are some of the advantages of being a teen? Okay, so you're in this stage right now, right? Where you're not a kid, you're not an adult, life is full of questions and worry and anxiety and on and on and on. I want you to know that you are experiencing an amazing time of your life because of what you already do. Like, you go to school for 8 hours out of the day. In those 8 hours, you deal with different social climates, okay? You have good days, you have bad days. You have good friends, you have bad friends. You have nice people, you have, mean people. You experience that for 8 hours all along, going from class to class to class. And by the way, each teacher thinks that, they're the only one who hands out homework. And so they just give out crazy amounts of homework, all this tests and all these quizzes. You have to have all your supplies. You have to make sure you're here at this class at this right time. And all the while trying to maintain friendships and build relationships. And during this time, you're dating people and your heart is falling in love and then it's breaking in half the next day. And you do it all over again. And then you go after after your after school hours, then you go into extracurricular, where you're in sports, where you're in band, where you're in all, what's it, stage dancing, ballerinas, whatever, ballet. You're in all sorts of different extracurricular activities. And then after that, you go home and you invest in your family, or your family will invest into you, and you spend time with them. And then you're on your family schedule. Then you have weekend schedule. And then you have the church's schedule. You have the school schedule. And then you want to hang out with friends. Like, I would just go crazy if I had your schedule. But you can do that. It is incredible of all that you can accomplish in a week, of all the things that you interact with, and of all the people that you're trying to please, and of all the schedules that you're trying to keep. I'll tell you, you're amazing. That is an amazing accomplishment. And seeing you grow and develop and to be able to handle so much is such a gift from God. Because not only are you preparing for what's ahead in 5 years, but you are able to enjoy right now. And I want you to know that you can worry about the future, and there's some things that you do need to be ready for and thinking about and all that stuff. But you have the ability to enjoy today. And this time frame from 13 all the way to 18, it doesn't have to be full of stress and worry and hate and just doubts and confusion. You can take this time. You can take all the abilities, all the capabilities that you have, and direct them in a positive direction. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you with that. That's why your parents are there. That's why your grandparents are there. That's why you have that coach who's encouraging you and that teacher who is helping you. Because there are people in your life that want to help you in this time to navigate you to where God wants you to be. Teens are absolutely amazing. I think that's why I don't know why the Lord has allowed me to be with teens, to be a youth pastor for these years now, is because you're fascinating. I mean, you're absolutely amazing of all the things that you can do and accomplish. And I want to help you. I want to help you, take you from where you are to where God wants you to be. And where does God want you to be? Like, what's the end? At the end of being a teen, like, where are you supposed to be? I believe in Matthew 10:42. I want you to read that verse, Matthew 10:42, and this is where we get Route 1042. In Matthew 10:42, there's a discussion that Jesus is having with his disciples. And I want you to read some of the verses prior to verse 42 so you get some of that context. But when he comes to verse 42, he speaks specifically about the disciples reaching out to younger people. And he does that as a disciple to make disciples. You see, that's why we're here. That's why I'm here on this earth. That is why I live and breathe. Not to just do whatever I want to do. I'm here to do what God wants me to do. And right now, that is to help you from where you are, to make you a disciple of Jesus Christ, who out of her own free will, chooses to love God with all of her heart, with all of her soul, and with all of her might. That's what God wants. And it seems like a pretty easy goal, but you have so much on your plate. You have so many things in your life, and it can get crowded. It can be confusing, but I want you to know that I'm here. This podcast is here. These videos are here for you to help you. So I hope you join us next time. I think this is going to be a great journey. I hope you come along with us. Subscribe, share, and comment, and we'll see you next time.